Okay, y'all. Welcome to our last first impression of the reading season, of the 2021 reading season. I am here today with a few people from the book board, the National Book Board, and we're going to talk about our classic novel selection for November, which is Tumbling by Diane McKinney-Whetstone. This is one of my favorite authors. She writes a lot of historical fiction. It's really heartwarming and touching. And this is one of our first books that BookTini has ever selected by her, about Herbie and Noon in 1940s Philadelphia. Joining me today to discuss it, we have Dina Jones from our Antioch East Bay chapter. We also have Capricia Williams Austin from our Sacramento chapter. We have Ashley Eaton from our Atlanta chapter, and we have Christia Ravenel from our DMV chapter. Okay, so let's get into it. First off, Tumbling, like I said, is about Herbie and Noon. They're a married couple in Philadelphia, 1940. And the book starts off with Herbie early Saturday night leaving the Club Royale. He's on his way home from kicking it out, and he runs into Bo the barber. Before I go there, though, Diane starts the book off talking about the neighborhood where they live and the Black people in Philadelphia. Many of them are people who have moved there with the Great Migration from the South. And it talks about their lives, how they work during what they do during the week, what they do on the weekends, going to the club or getting ready for church, that kind of thing. And it's really, really, her descriptions really had me like, I want to live in this neighborhood. It's very, I don't know, just touched my heart. So he runs into Bo the barber, and Bo is like basically chastising him because he's out late at night and he has a married woman at home, and he knows that his wife is a very good woman, so he's like, you need to get it together. And Herbie is like, whatever. And you get a hint of there's something going on with his marriage that makes him go out and run around with other women in the club, but you don't know what it is. But there is something, like, he knows he has a good wife, but there's something that's keeping them from having a good marriage, 100%. And he also feels some kind of way about Bo, saying he's chasing women because there's not women, it's one woman that he's after. And we find out that that is Ethel, and we'll find out about Ethel later. So as he's going home after he leaves Bo, he stumbles upon, on his doorstep, there's a baby just chilling on the doorstep. Somebody left a baby in a box. And he's like, what the heck is this? He goes into the house. He's excited because it's a baby girl, or he thinks it's a baby girl. He wakes up his wife and she's excited about it. And they're like, oh, well, we'll keep the baby for the night and then turn the baby in the morning. And as they're talking about it, Noon is looking at the baby and notices the baby has the same complexion as Herbie, the same type of hair and eyes. And she's like, did this man just bring a baby into my house that's his? Is he lying? Acting like, yeah, I found his baby on the doorstep. And she knows that he's always out and about, likely cheating on her, right? But she kind of ignores that feeling because she knows that he's not a good liar, and he doesn't seem like he's lying this time around. What would you do if your husband came in with a baby on the doorstep? Y'all are muted, just so you know.
I know, we were laughing.
Oh, okay.
Because I was just cracking up, and she was like, baby kind of looks like him, but he's a terrible liar. It's fine. Like, honey, no, I need you to put these pieces together. I need you to be a little more suspicious.
I totally believed him. I totally would have. I would have been like Noon and been like, it's not his baby. Like, I was totally going along with it. I'm sorry, Capricia, I cut you off.
Oh, no, you're fine. No, because I would have been suspicious. I'd have been like, this baby looks just like you. Y'all both light skinned. You baby got your eyes. I'm totally.
And you always in the club.
Right, you always in the club running around. I wouldn't believe it.
Yeah, I feel like I would have believed him that he found the baby, but I would have been suspicious that someone he was out running around with left their baby that they had with him. Because of all the houses on this block, you were like, that one. And then this baby looks like you. And I'm like, which one of these girls from the club was like, I'm not taking care of this baby.
Right.
You and your wife can take care of this baby.
Right.
Right, because
Right.
she even describes how their house is like in the middle. It's not like, it was like in the corner. It was convenient to like, okay, right here, I'm just dropping the baby off. You went to the middle of the block, a long city Philadelphia block, and dropped that baby off.
Well, Noon was known to be like a sweet, caring type of person, very active in the church. So I could see people saying she would make a good mom. She would take care of this baby, at least. So I could kind of see, but if I was in that position, I don't know if I would be like, they think they did this because they believe in me. I would kind of be like, why did you leave this baby here? So I could see that not crossing her mind. Yeah.
But I guess part of that is how much like we learn that they both want and need this. That I think the questions that normally would come if it was like, we don't have money for a baby, like we don't want a baby, like, or if they had a bunch of kids already or whatever the case may be, maybe they would have been like, no. But I think she wants it so much that she's like, I'm not going to do my due diligence. Because even if you like thought that, you might ask that or like a basic question of like, did you notice?
Because she doesn't want to know. She doesn't want to know. She just wants they immediately, just the way this author describes the feelings, the emotions, the colors, everything, that's what just captivated me from the beginning. The way this author describes every single thing with such poetry to me, but like, I don't think she was going to ask any questions. I think immediately I knew just when how it was described, how he was holding the baby and how it felt and how he was looking in the baby. It was just like this, they keeping this baby. No questions asked.
Right. What you said about the prose is so true though. I'm like, this is beautiful.
So beautiful.
But this is mess. Like this is beautiful mess.
It's a beautiful mess.
I'm like, y'all are telling the most like trash story. And I'm like, nice.
Speaking of a beautiful mess, so in chapter 2, we have them sleeping in the bed together with the baby, and Noon wakes up and she's just like really basking in the glow of, we have a baby here, my husband is here, and you get a sense of there is something wrong with her, because she talks about something terrible. She doesn't talk about it, but the author is sharing with the reader something terrible happened to her in her younger years. She has a lot of guilt and shame about it. Intimacy is very hard for her, very, very, very difficult. And motherhood is listed as impossible, basically. And so she has a lot of guilt and shame about that, especially about the motherhood aspect. And so it's kind of like, okay, now we have this baby here, so maybe I'll get my chance to be a mother. And the one thing that made me cringe is when the baby kind of is suckling the air in the bed and she decides to try to breastfeed the baby just in case she could. And I'm just like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Even if you could have a baby, that's not really gonna.
Like, this is inappropriate, ma'am. I'm like, maybe y'all do need to call CPS about this baby. I don't. I'm like, y'all said she was a great mom, but I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a testament to how strongly she really, really wanted to fulfill that role 100%. So it made me sad more than anything, that she would go that length to see if she could still mother the baby physically in that way. But I was like, no, don't do that.
Don't do it.
And the baby was like, what are you doing? That's not how this works.
And she knew. As soon as her husband was like, what's happening? She was like, nothing. Like,
right.
Yeah, poor Noon. That made me feel bad for her more than anything. But they wake up and they decide, okay, it's Saturday. We can't really do anything by taking this baby anywhere. They'll probably just put it in like temporary foster care. So let's keep the baby over the weekend. And then on Monday, we'll see how things go. And then she wants the pastor to come by and bless the baby. And Herbie wants to reach out to Big Carl from the Club Royale to see if anybody has heard about a woman having a baby and leaving it or whatever. So this brings a whole bunch of different people to their home, the church folk, the choir, the card playing folk, the people at the club, everybody just comes on in and they bring stuff for the baby to help them with the baby. They're excited about it. They also want to know like who did this. But it shows like how their worlds are so different. They bring the different people from their different aspects into their home. Also, Herbie is a red cap at the train station, so his friends from the train come and everything. And the Reverend is kind of like, don't y'all want to just keep the baby? Because back home, we didn't involve the white man in this type of stuff. Somebody didn't have a parent and the community raised somebody in the community raised them. And Herbie says the same. His mother died when he was young and his father was a porter. So the women in the community raised him his brother. And I was like, that is kind of true. Like you hear about back in the day, most people, if somebody, if a parent wasn't available or they couldn't raise a child, somebody else in the family just took them. You didn't involve CPS or have an official adoption, basically. What did you guys think about that?
I think that is very much how, I bet if all of us went back in our family, there is some cousin, auntie, uncle who they just, hey, you just come over here, we'll take care of you. It made me miss the community aspect. Like when they all gathered at the house, I was like, that is so, we don't do that anymore. I'm not even outside the country. We just don't do those big, huge, deep gatherings where all the people from the neighborhood gather.
Right.
Don't trust each other like that. And everybody was celebrating this baby. And it was a full celebration. I was like, I want that.
I don't know. It did make me like, I miss that. Like,
yeah. It also made me think about how back then, like how you'll just have folks who they just don't know their birthday. Like,
oh, yeah.
Because you just write down whatever. Like my grandfather, he celebrated like 2 weeks because he was like, I don't really know. So we just gonna have a party for that whole
around the time that we think I was
doing. So like that. And then it also makes you realize like how entrenched they are in their personalities and that they've only been in Philly for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And in that time of being in Philly for a year, they like still managed to get that same group of people that they like were used to. Like she still found church people. He still found like all the people at the club and like
right.
runners. Like they were still like, those are the people I want to be around. Like, so like you would think that like them moving together would be like a fresh start where we have similar friends or whatever the case may be. And they were like, nah, that's not what I want.
They had a full-on adoption ceremony, pretty much. When we came over, it was like an adoption ceremony.
Right.
We're gonna sign this paper. This is that. That's all. Period. Point blank. And then, I mean, I saw it coming. We all saw it coming. Like,
yeah,
they keeping this baby, right? But like, the pastor was just straight up like, we're not getting the. But there's always what I realize about this. Yes, there's a community. And yes, there's, all of these things we just talked about, but there's always a hater in our midst.
There was a hater.
There's always a hater in our midst.
Dottie was like, well, I think you need to, and the pastor was like, what we gonna do is take my word for it.
And if you don't want to be damnation to hell or whatever, you won't agree. You might not go to the white man about it. Okay?
I was like, I was like, she's right though. Y'all need a birth certificate.
Officially. Like,
well, I was gonna say, I really liked how quickly the Reverend just came up with this idea. Just go on down Monday and say some people from the South dropped this baby off, and you just need to get some paperwork. I was like, that is quick thinking, because I don't know if I would have thought of that.
Yeah, because clearly it's been happening. It's just like a thing that happens, and he already had the process. So just follow what I say. And they named the baby right there. The baby is named Fanny.
It's such a 1940s name, isn't it?
Is.
Fanny?
Very much.
Very.
Much. Because when they said Fanny, I was like, okay.
I guess. I also think it's interesting that like he named her, like that he's so invested that like without even like turning to her and being like, what do you think? He was like, this is Fanny. Like
and she was like, okay. So
I actually love that he was so invested because I feel like in that era, men were like, that is your thing and you're over there and I don't, I'm not involved. I do the one thing to make it happen and after that I'm done. Right.
And you know what? That was interesting that he did say he wanted the baby earlier. He wanted to mention it, but he felt like because she would be the caretaker, he couldn't really say, let's keep it. Like, I thought that was interesting because I feel like most men during that time would be like, I don't care what you think. You finna keep this baby, baby. You know what I mean? So that was good that he considered her,
He also spent a lot of time caring about her feelings and what was going on with her, even though, he said he had his own needs and everything like that. A lot of it was trying as hard as possible to be in deference to her and what she needed. And he was very supportive, even though, he stepped out. Like it was interesting to see that excuse be used in a way where I was like, well, maybe it's not so bad. And I was like, hold up.
Well, before we get there, because we haven't got there yet.
Okay.
So in chapter 3, everybody has left, and Noon is with her Bible, and we learn that she had been writing baby on a piece of paper, putting in her Bible, and then placing it on the altar when she would go to church every Sunday. And that was like very heartbreaking because she had been told she would not be able to have kids. And so she decided to also write healing on a piece of paper, replace the baby part, because she was like, okay, I got my baby. You know what I mean? So let me see if I'll get the healing that I need because she is, I don't know how to say it, but I guess messed up on the inside. And there's they allude in the story to her being dragged through the woods when she was younger. Something very, very traumatic happened to her. And her mother told her never to share it with Herbie because he would likely abandon her, judge her, say it's her fault, all this kind of stuff. And I'm just like, oh, this is terrible advice. I mean, I understand where her mom is coming from, but he has no idea what's going on with her. So they have no intimacy whatsoever, and he's just expected to just be patient without any kind of explanation that's, that is sufficient or whatever. And then they kind of have, they get into it a little bit. Is it that night where they get into it? Because he is feeling like, okay, our family is coming together. We got this baby. She is kind of happy because the baby is here. I'm happy. Maybe tonight we will finally have sex. And we find out that they've been married for almost a year and they have never had sex before. So this is the issue. This is why he's out chasing women, because they've never had sex. And she always backs up off of him. They don't even really have any kind of intimacy either. And they get into an argument and he decides he's going out to get him find him some from somebody else. What did you guys think about this? Like the whole dynamic and the reason. I also forgot to say that she also puts it on him to go to church. He does not want to go to church at all. He's like, that's not my ministry to go to church. And she's just like, maybe if you came to church, you would understand me better. And he's like, no, just give me this. I want to please you and you please me. And that like a married couple should. And so they are bumping heads really bad about this. What do you guys think?
That they're very incompatible.
I mean, yeah.
I think there's a very big backstory to his resistance to going to church. I don't know what that is. I don't know what happened to him at church or something with church and religion or something. But like her issues are not, he's not going to be comforted by what's going on with her by going to church. So I think he's guided in that area because he does throw that back at her, I believe, right? When he's asking her like, why don't you listen when the pastor says, women please your husbands or whatever. So like, I'm like, Newt, I don't think you thought this through because I don't think church is going to help y'all right here. The minute the pastor says, wives, turn to your husbands and say, yes, I am waiting. What you saying?
Right.
Right. I do really respect him because I think is it this chapter or another chapter where he's like other men would have taken it, and I'm not gonna about that. So I mean, if we're being very honest, like in that time period, that's very true. Another man would have just been like, this is what it's about to be.
Right. You're gonna give it to me, whether you want to or not. So
yeah, it's like the bar is on the floor, like where we're like, where it's like, I could have taken it, I'm only out here until you start to. But I also like wonder like how quickly did he start like being back out there? Because I feel like sometimes people say stuff and I'm like, is that true? Where it's like, I wouldn't be out here if I was actually sleeping with my wife.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true. Like if he's still
I do
in that,
think it's true for him.
I don't know. Like I think that he's like, he seems kind of nice enough to say that, but I am curious as to how quickly and how patient like he was in terms of like, was it a month? Was it like 2 weeks before he was like, look, this ain't happened yet. So, I mean, like, I think that in this time period, I think that he's like doing great, but I think in general, like the bar is on the floor.
I don't know, because intimacy is so important in a relationship. The idea that you could be married for a year to somebody and you've never had an intimate relationship, and he's still so devoted and dedicated to his family. Like I was in shock. Like not only him saying I another person would have left you by now. And I'm like, yeah. I mean,
now the leaving, I agree with. Yeah, I like you just gotta go. Like this ain't gonna work. Like I just think in general, like her and her mother, like they're, and I think she recognized that, like in seeing him was like I don't know if I can do this. She avoided him. We'll get to that. Like she avoids him, but her mom is like, no, kind of like move forward with this and don't say anything. And it's just not a well thought out plan because it doesn't take into account like any sort of like healing or like we don't know if she can like comfortably have sex. Like we don't know if like we do know that she has PTSD and she like responds in this way. So you're kind of like betting on hoping, I guess she hoped that her daughter would be with someone. And
well, the time period, people weren't really thinking about healing. You know what I mean? Like, especially about emotionally traumatic, physically traumatic things. It was just like, you move on. It happened, you move on. Like, that was kind of how people handled stuff. You know what I mean? So, it definitely wasn't thought out in that way.
And I think the mom also pushes her to him because he was a newcomer at the church. He didn't know what happened to her. And wasn't going to put on her all of the same, either whether it be judgment or pity. I'm not sure which one the folks at her church and in the community, and they also could see visibly that he was attracted. And so I think the mom said, here's your opportunity to have a marriage, because that was essentially the goal. Right. And so she not only got herself a marriage, she got herself a marriage to a handsome man who, is from out of town and randomly dropped into her daddy church. So
and didn't know what happened to her. So he couldn't really judge her on that. And she would be able to have a brand new life if she went away with him.
Right.
But I guess it speaks to how long did anybody think this would last?
Right.
I mean, that's point he was going to want to consummate his marriage. And
I don't know.
It sounds like they're not intimate in any way. Like you can be intimate, of course, without having intercourse, right? And there's none of that. Like even when they're just like sitting too close, she eventually is like,
right.
I mean, we'll get to.
And he's like, can we just sit here and talk? So there's no intimacy.
And
there is a little bit. There is a little bit.
I was going to say she does something, but it's not enough.
There's something, but it's not. I don't think it's enough for him. Like at the end of chapter 7. Well, no, I don't know if it's 6 or 7. But there's a moment where he's just like, this isn't enough. And I think after their anniversary, and she manually handled her business, but you said, it wasn't satisfactory to him. And
because they're grown and not in 7th grade.
And that was on their anniversary, their 1-year anniversary. So one thing I did notice when they talk about how he met her at her father's church in Florida, it said 2 years prior. So I'm guessing they dated for 2 years, or maybe they courted, how people courted back then. I mean, for 1 year, and then they've been married for 1 year. So he's been waiting. That's kind of long.
Well, I don't think that first year he was done with Ethel. So
I mean, waiting for her though, like
right. No, the accurate that part.
That's a long time.
I think too, like I don't want to, I'm giving him credit because of he's like still there and she's not giving it up. But I feel very strongly about the fact that she suffered some type of trauma. What's frustrating is that she doesn't feel comfortable sharing that trauma with him, so that, because he seems like, I don't know, the type of guy that would say, oh, now I understand, let me help you, let's talk through this.
Yeah.
Like, this is not your, because she's dealing with some very deep trauma. And like I said, while we're giving him a little bit of credit for just kind of hanging in there, like I still feel like somebody needed to, because she don't know how to deal with this.
Yeah.
And she's left there. She's frustrated that she can't give her husband what he wants and what he needs. She knows this ain't right, but she don't even know how to deal with it, right? Like that's how trauma works. Like, you don't even know how to deal with this. And so you kind of like make up these rules that
go to church, basically.
Go to church,
pray about it.
Get your healing, pray about it. It's very typical, right, of how we deal, how people deal with trauma.
Yeah, very true.
And it's like, had she told him or been able to give some sort of explanation, then maybe she could have come around to like them working towards intimacy and doing those things. But like, it's just frustrating when someone won't tell you anything and they're just like, there's something wrong, but I'm not going to tell you what, but it's going to affect you. Yeah, no.
Like,
but I'm working on it. I'm praying about it, right?
Right. And you're not, and you're working on it is like, and at that point we realized that I think she also kind of like jumped past the idea of like healing, because we see that she doesn't ask for healing until she has a baby. She asks for a baby at first.
Right.
So like, she's just like, I think for her, she equates the baby to healing, because like, if she can manage to like have sex and have a baby, then she's healed. But we're realizing that like, those are not the same. Like now even though it's in a circuitous route, you have a baby, but you're still not healed to have this kind of happy situation that you thought would happen. So now you have to ask for that thing separately.
And that kind of complicates it even more.
Yeah, she didn't ask for that first. And then like a baby, like, which I think speaks a lot to like her not, the trauma of not having experienced intimacy in a positive way, where she's thinking about like baby. She's not thinking about like, what will this do for my relationship? What does it look like with my husband for the two of us to actually have this intimacy together? And she's lucky that, especially in that time period, that she has someone who's like, I want both of us to experience.
Yeah, because he was like, let me please you. I'm like, in the 40s.
Right? I was like, had they had that talk, maybe that's how they ease into it. Like, she doesn't know.
She don't know how lucky she is.
I was like, okay, Herbie. So then in chapter 4, Herbie goes off. He's like, I'm about to go find me some Ethel. Because Ethel don't be putting me through this. But Ethel has been gone for 6 months. He didn't know where she was, but he heard that she had been back. And so he hears that she's at this club in New Jersey across the water. He takes the bus to the club, and the juke joint club tent is in a tent or whatever. It sounds like it was lit. And Ethel sings, and she's like this red hot siren that, deserves a lot of attention and gets it. And she kind of sets him up to get played, because she sees him in the crowd. And she sends one of the waitresses to give him a beer. And at the end of her set says, come back in 15 minutes. And this waitress kind of seduces him a bit, flirts a lot, massages his back, so he doesn't go out sooner to the dressing room. And when he finally does go 15 minutes later, she's gone. So she ghosted him, and he feels like an idiot because he fell for it. I kind of felt bad for him, but I was like, you cheating on your wife, so ain't too much bad I can feel.
I have so many conspiracy theories. I have so many conspiracy theories about this relationship, all of these relationships. She left for a convenient amount of time since he started showing around 3 months. But you know what I'm saying? So all of it just felt very convenient. And maybe she wasn't ready to see him because she wasn't ready for him to notice her body changing a little bit and all these other things. So I kept my thoughts about all of that, you know, tucked in my back pocket. I said, I don't know what's going on with Ethel, but that baby looks like him per everybody. So he felt that instant kinship, you know, that one might feel with their flesh and or blood. So my instant thought was, oh, Ethel got, you know, put in a family way, and she hasn't gotten her body back in a way where she can share herself with him, because you need what,
I didn't
6
think about
weeks,
that.
9 weeks or whatever after you have, no, it's 3 months after you have a baby before you're cleared to engage. And so maybe she knew she couldn't, and so she was like, let me dip on him. I have so many conspiracy
I didn't
theories.
think about that part. Okay.
Literally had the same thought process. I was like, okay, see, because he noticed her body looked a little different. I was like, see, right there, right there. She was gone for 6 months, right there. Baby just magically appeared, right there. I'm with you.
Right there.
And she ghosted him because she was like, I'm not ready.
Yeah. I didn't think about that part, but I definitely was like, oh, that's their baby. That's their baby.
I had to put some things together, but I was like, this is what happened. The thing is that, like, him getting played by the waitress, I thought was, I mean, men are so dumb. Like, you're here. You're here specifically for a reason. Someone comes to flirt with you and you all out your head and you don't even follow through with the thing you were there for.
Right.
Ethel sang you a song that made you cry, and you still were and you still got distracted by the waitress. Ethel, no, you ain't.
I mean,
real.
it was a good massage. I mean, he lifting luggage every day. Like, he probably needed that.
She hit them shoulders. He was like, yes.
He was like, where you live at though? He did ask.
You did too much. You did too much.
He was like, you gonna be here after I see Ethel? And I was like, dang, you in one night.
Yeah.
It did make me want to turn on summer. What did she sing? Summertime? It made me want to turn on Fantasia real quick. To hear that.
I love Fantasia.
That's literally the only reason why I know the words to the song. And I was like, okay, I'm following. This is lovely.
So after he gets played, he goes back home and Noon is gone, which is shocking to him because it's late at night. She didn't left with the baby, and he goes back outside to see if he can find her. And Bo the barber is out again. Like, I saw your wife up at the church. So she's, you need to get it together. Stop running around after these women. And he wants to knock him in the face because he's like, get out of my business. But so at Noon is at the church because it's Founders Day the next day. So she decided to go out there and help get the food together. And everybody is, of course, excited about seeing the baby. But eventually people leave and she's there at the church with the Reverend Shell. And he asks her, well, what's going on with your eyes? Because I guess she probably had been crying or whatever. So he notices her face looks different. And she confesses that there is something wrong with her and it's affecting her marriage. And they hug. And so he decides to put her on the altar and do like a Jesus heal it type of thing. And it got kind of, when I was reading it, I was like, something else is happening here.
I had to read it twice. Because I was like, hold up. Did he actually touch her? Like, and so when we talk about it, his hands come up here and then it goes down. But he never and then the part where he was starting to cross over into inappropriate because she had a sheet over her is when he was like, do you trust me? And then I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. I see, sir. You're dirty. But initially I read it twice because it's like he's not actually crossing the line yet, and he has not yet crossed the line. But it was so interesting how well Noon knows his wife that he walked in the room and says something off in this shit. Like, you can,
he said her hair was disheveled.
Yeah,
her clothes looked kind of wrinkled. What kind of made me feel weird about them though was she's on the altar and he's doing his thing, and then the baby is crying. So she's like, okay, that kind of took her away from what she was focused on, and she wants to help the baby. And he's kind of like, no, and he pushes her forehead back, and he says, "How bad do you want your healing?" And I was like, what?
I was like, this is inappropriate.
How bad do you want it?
Too much.
Is it healing or is it something else you finna give? I don't know.
Right. And I was like, he's very close to getting to the, because he was like, let me heal you. And that just does not sound Jesus-y, not in the way it's, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, something's wrong here. And I think it's from the way that Herbie describes Noon, she is a luscious, supple woman, right? Like that's the reason why he's just like, I just need to be near and up and through this woman, like, you know. And so I'm sure he's not the only person who feels that way about her. And I'm sure the pastor is doing typical, I mean, we just read Secret Lives of Church with it, you know. So I'm sure, you know, that there was some of that being intoned in how everything was coming across. But I did read it twice, maybe 3 times, just to make sure. I was like, let me see if that line got crossed. And it did. So it's interesting to see how it,
But it was uncomfortable though. It was uncomfortable. I was reading it like, oh, this don't feel right.
So I was wondering if it was like me putting that on him, or if it was supposed to be uncomfortable. Because when I read it twice, like you did, EJ. And the second time I was like, okay, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
I thought it was fine until the part you said where he was like, how bad do you want it? And I was like, oh, this is no.
How bad do you want your healing?
Yeah. And I think also I got really interested where there's the line where she says something to the effect of like when she's taking out the pies or something, where she's like, oh yeah, I started to feel warmth or something.
Yes.
And I was like,
she felt warmth on the inside.
What kind of warmth we talking about? Like, is this you being attracted to the pastor? Is this healing? Like this, like, you know, but you're talking about, like, what's happening here?
But I think it was the pastor. Like, she definitely said, "I love him" afterwards, and I think it's because
more than anything else.
And I think she never had the actual arousal before. And because, you know, she's basically been with PTSD. And so to have someone spark that in her, like, part of the reason why I was a little shocked that it didn't go further was because of her naiveness in this entire situation. She may not have known that she was doing something wrong, or she was doing, you know, creeping towards something wrong, because she didn't even have that background to rely on.
Right.
Okay, so this is exactly the reason why the communication with her husband is so important. She communicated her trauma to the pastor as a trusted healing source, and then he began to have kind of touch and do this thing or whatever over her. But had she had this conversation with her husband and let him show her kindness and empathy
and make her feel safe,
and to make her feel safe and make her feel like take it easy and take it slow with her, then she probably would have felt the same way. But like, she's never even given Herbie the chance to even get there. But this trust that she's having with the pastor and like letting him and equating it to this healing kind of gave her some type of spark that her husband probably could have gave her if she just let him, right?
That's true. Yeah. I didn't think about that.
I think she's circumventing, because she's calling it something else. But I mean, there's a certain level of intimacy there that she's allowing, that like she doesn't feel comfortable with that intimacy with her husband. Because I mean, she's given him like the basics of like, something happened to me and I was hurt, but there hasn't been more than that. And I don't know if she, at least from what I read, I don't know if she told the pastor more.
She did.
Yeah, she did. Like, she explained what happened to her. And also, I mean, she's a preacher's kid, right? So her father, that's where she's comfortable. She's comfortable in the church. She's comfortable around churchy people. And so this pastor already has, you know, an in. And I agree with you 100%, Dina, that had given the opportunity the way Herbie loves her, he would have definitely met her where she needed to be. And it's her mama who's really the reason why she's not opening up, because she's taken her mama word.
But Herbie, peep game. Go to church once a week, and you might be able to like bridge the gap. You know what I'm saying? Because it's kind of like meeting each other. They're both not meeting each other.
Yeah.
Where they like, she's not going to go in the club, sure, and Herbie
Right.
maybe don't want her in the club, but like, Herbie, you want intimacy with your wife. She loves church. Go to church once a week for an hour, and you might show her some like progress in that space where she feels safe, and it might equal to like some type of intimacy. I you know what I'm saying? Like
that's
this
true.
full circle thing.
My only thing was, aside from Herbie, like just not knowing how to approach the entire thing, like something had to have happened. Because remember, Herbie walked into her daddy church unprovoked. He just went in there.
Yeah, I was just
so something had to have happened to make it so that he won't even go inside to get his wife. Like something had to have happened. And so I'm hoping the book tells the rest of that story. Like it closes that gap.
Maybe he has some church trauma.
Yeah. Something. And maybe it happened after he met her at church, because that was a 2-year period between him wandering into a church just unprovoked and staying there all day and finding a wife, and him not even wanting to walk in from across the street. I think the only reason why he does go in the church is because he hears the baby crying, and he was like, all right, let me figure out what's going on.
So in chapter 6, it does tell us, I'm sorry, just to try to talk about that. In chapter 6, it talks about how they did meet in church, and it was because he was, at the time, he was a traveling musician. He was in the band with Ethel, so he knew Ethel first. But Ethel was, I'm feeling Ethel. She's just like, can't nobody tell me what to do. I'm not attached to anyone. Get in where you fit in. And so they had, like, I guess, a love affair or whatever. But he sees her go off with another man one night, and he's heartbroken. So he goes to church the next day, and that's how he meets Noon. She's an usher at her father's church, and they are attracted to each other. I thought it was super cute how you know how there was these memes that were talking about like how a church lady flirts and she makes you a plate, basically, and that's what she did. Made him a plate, and then her mama was like, go take him this apple pie and turn the spoon backward or something so that he can see you twice when you. I'm like, this is some Southern black girl magic I didn't know about, you know?
I'm like, here are these lessons.
Right. I'm like, what? So he see you twice, okay? And she got her man. I mean, it works, okay? And after it explains how they met, then we get to really, really meet Ethel, because they basically, Herbie and Noon celebrate their 1-year anniversary. They still aren't able to do the do. And he's like, this really isn't enough, like you guys said earlier. And eventually Ethel sends word through the club that she is back and that she wants Herbie to meet at her apartment or whatever. So one day after work, he gets all jazzed up. He's excited. He goes to get her some chocolates. They end up melting, and some flowers. It's so funny how his whole demeanor changes. Like he seems like a goof all of a sudden when he goes to see her. When before he seemed kind of like self-assured, and now he's just like a goofy little, I don't know, just goofy. And and he meets her in her apartment, and they talk. He's eager, but he's also upset with her because he's like, you just disappeared on me. You know, like, what is that about? She says that she is actually moving to stay in Philly. She has rented this apartment to really be here for real. And he's upset about her leaving. And she's like, but you have a wife. Like, and don't nobody question me. So I do what I do. And that's just what it is. And he confesses to her. Apparently, he hasn't told anybody else about his issue with Noon. And he tells her about it. And she still kind of pushes him to work it out. Like, don't leave her, stay with her, even when she hears that it's been a year.
She needs a mama for her mama and a daddy for her baby. That's why. Okay.
That's what I thought too. Cause she was like really at home. I really liked how, I mean, she's the other woman, but she's just like, your wife is amazing. Right. Like she does this, and this. Like, no, you wouldn't, don't leave her. Why would you leave her? You know what I mean?
She's a perfect mama for my baby. Go ahead and take her. And I think that's part of the reason why I appreciate Ethel's tactics, because she was like, if all he needs is a little something in order for him to watch my baby, then I'll make
give
that
it to
happen.
him.
I can handle that.
That's a problem.
That ain't no problem. That ain't no problem.
That ain't no problem. I was gonna do that anyway. Okay.
Yeah.
So so she does put it on him, and that's where we're gonna end our discussion, so we don't go too far into the book. What do you guys think about Ethel so far?
I really don't mind Ethel. She's the very 2021 lady back in 1940. She's like, I know what I want, and it's not to be tied up to no man. Also, I'm trying to understand that I got, put in a family. Now that's me. That's my conjecture. But, I want to have a happy family for the baby that I made with this man. Once again, my conjecture. And she, is like, I sing and I like doing what I do, and I don't want to be tied down to anyone. And so this is how I've created my life. And I respect it. I'm just starting to question why she decided to stay in Philly. And part of it is because she wants to watch her baby grow from afar. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I've already, put together pieces of this story in my brain. Now, if it's not true, it will go to how good of a writer Diane is, because I was like, I'm dead set on my theory. And if it's something else, I'm gonna be like, I didn't see that coming. But if I did see it coming, it's still a good book. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The math is mathing, essentially.
That's a really good description of her. She's a very 2021 type woman in the 1940s. I love her. I love her attitude. I read the book before, but I can't wait to get deeper into it.
Me too. So this is my third read, but a lot of the details I have forgotten because I haven't read it in probably at least 10 years. But I'm like, I do not remember Ethel. So this is the awakening, I guess, for me, and I'm loving it. Even though I'm not really excited about her. If she did give up her baby, I'm not excited about that. But at least she found a caring family, a mama at the most, to take care of her. So I'm excited about getting more into this book. Like, I felt like where we stopped was like perfect.
Yeah.
It's a perfect amount of the book to read.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I also, because the last time I did a first impression, I read past what you told me to read too, and then I got all confused. So I stopped, but I was mad. I was like, dang, I'm telling stuff I'm not supposed to say. But I got mad because I was like, I really just want to keep reading. Like, I need to figure out if I'm right. You know what I'm saying? I just need the next chapter to be like, and so then Ethel confessed that the baby was hers. Like, that's right.
Yeah, so guys, we had a hard time trying to figure out if we wanted to. This is one of the books that the book board selected for the book club, and we had a hard time trying to figure out what book it would be for this month. And when I finished that 7th chapter, I was like, I'm so happy we chose this. It's just warmed my heart, So I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited too, and everyone else in the club is as well. Aisha said,
will be pleased that we're excited to read this.
And Aisha said this was a breath of fresh air compared to last month's book. What did we read last month? I forgot.
The black girl. Don't the other black girl.
Oh yes. You see how far away from my mind that book is? I mean, yes,
black girl.
Mm-hmm.
This is you are correct, Aisha. This is definitely a breath of fresh air. Yeah, so thank you guys for joining us for our first impression of Tumbling. Does anybody else have any other thoughts about it you want to share before we go? No? Okay, great. Also to everyone watching, just so you know, we are opening up the book board for new members now for 2022 and 23. So if you're interested in joining the book board, the link to it went out yesterday. So check your email. We are accepting applications until I believe the 17th. And that's a very hard deadline. And also the requirements are you have to be available to meet 4 times a year when we select the books. You also have to have the schedule for it because our meetings are long. We have to sit through a lot of books and also be open to doing these a few times a year. our first impressions and helping with the syllabus that we send out monthly for our books. So if you're interested in all of that, make sure you send in your application by the 17th, and our literary chair, EJ, will let you know if you made it onto the book board. Other than that, do you have anything to say, EJ?
No, just one, I apologize for being late. I have almost a 2-year-old, and things just get crazy around here sometimes. But I really have enjoyed the additions that we did this year with, doing the first impressions, with the syllabus and everything, and all of the wonderful ladies on the book board for participating in all of these changes. And, I know there are some changes happening to the organization in general, but I do want to say that the essence of BookTini is remaining, and the book board is a big part of that. So if you want to be a big part of the future of our book club, then feel free to, submit an application. And we have a good time on our meetings. They're 2.5 hours long, but it's a good time. So, it's the highlight of my BookTini life. And there's so much that is so great about the club. So, I look forward to reading your applications and, having you ladies join us for, future meetings.
Yes. All right. Thank you for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your, is this Wednesday? Yes, I don't know my days. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, guys. Bye-bye.